Frogs. The world seems to love these animals. But why? What is it about them that's so captivating? It seems that nowadays people love frogs more than ever. Whether it be via TV, social media, or just passing conversation, frog love is apparent, and it's all over the place. But have these animals always had this positive reputation? Is it even valid? And what specific qualities might they have that gives them this special place in people's hearts? Today, we'll be exploring what exactly makes these animals so lovable, and why they've become such a staple in the minds of the everyday people. Maybe it has something to do with their unique personality. First and foremost, these animals ain't too smart. And I'm not going to be the type that thinks they're defending them by refuting this. Because the truth is, you don't need to. It's actually one of their biggest appeals. There's something about their derpiness that just makes you want to protect them. It's glorious. It also helps that it's pretty relatable to some degree. We all have our goofy moments, and I think frogs help us cope with that on some level. Another key personality trait of theirs is their apparent mood swings. These seem to happen whenever food is involved, and it often occurs when there's more than one frog present. If you've ever watched a YouTube video about frogs being fed, you might notice how petty they are about sharing. You might also notice how absolutely ballistic they can become at the spur of a moment. I don't think I've ever seen an animal get this emotionally heated over food, but needless to say, it's hilarious. Just look at this lizard's reaction. Even he's asking him to chill. On a less comedic note, frogs also have something of a mystical quality to them as well. Medieval folklore often associated them with witchcraft and the occult, which back then was viewed in a very negative light. But with time, as these archaic mindsets got filtered out, we started having a much more peachy view of this era. The idea of witchcraft became a lot more harmless and playful, even cozy to a degree. And with that, the perception of frogs started leaning in a more positive direction likewise. It gave them a very particular rustic medieval vibe, adding to their approachability, evoking imagery of swampy, cottagecore vistas, complete with all the frog-related fixins you could ever want. It's such a particular vibe, it even has a name which has been collectively coined by the internet: frogcore. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe I've ever seen any other animal given this something core name. And if so, it wouldn't roll off the tongue quite like the name frogcore does. This is all assuming your shorts feed doesn't get blown up by all the random animal core videos showing up lately, by the way. But I digress. And on the topic of media, the idea of frogs seems to flourish here as well. Whether it be cartoons, video games, books, the unique frog vibe lends itself very well to these outlets. This is likely why works of fiction involving frogs tend to leave such a mark on consumers. These works include, but aren't limited to, The Muppets, Frog and Toad, Smiling Friends, and even more modern versions of Minecraft to a degree. One video game I grew up with, Rayman Legends, which I have very fond memories of, had a lot of frog imagery peppered throughout the game as well. This has no doubt left its mark on me, in part due to this very froggy element. Also, the game is just really good, you should go play it. And hey, maybe these works don't capture the real-life frog essence perfectly, but it just goes to show the appreciation they've built up over time. But if there's any type of media that takes its creative liberties with frogs, it'd have to be memes.
He be rolling down the street, he be rolling to the beat.
I think frog memes happen to be some of the most potent out there, rivaling that of even cats. And it's safe to say they've played a large part in forming modern meme culture. Take Rare Pepe, Crazy Frog, Dat Boy, etc., and all the laughs they've given us throughout the internet's existence. Rare Pepe, though, has had a bit of a rocky history, but it by no means diminishes the net positive frog memes have had. Either way, I think frog's magical connotations, which we talked about earlier, translates very well into memes. In fact, it happens to mesh quite nicely into a lot of the surreal memes we've been seeing in recent years. Like, have you ever seen that one oddly existential Rare Pepe animation floating around? It just goes to show that behind that dopey facade, frogs seemingly have a hidden element that compels us to think beyond our normal boundaries. Speaking of dopey, there's one type of frog that perfectly encapsulates this term. Have you ever heard of the Budget's frog? You'd think they would fit your budget considering how unfinished they look. Either way, this is that type of animal that
walks the delicate tightrope between radically ugly and cute as hell.
Personally, I find it super charming, but more importantly, I think it epitomizes Frog's memeable nature. Case in point,
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
if you were active on YouTube during the late 2010s, you might be familiar with these Wednesday animations, all made by a talented creator by the name of Zemo Nitrome. I can't say I know much about the channel, but I can tell you with confidence their memes were prolific during this era. This was in no small part due to the stellar animation, but I think this also had a lot to do with the animals in said videos. That being, the Budget's frog, which mind you they perfectly represented with their glorious screams. But either way, the main reason I bring these videos up at all is because I think they were a highlight of frog meme history. As goofy as that sounds. But it's not like Budget's frogs are the only iconic frog species out there. Allow me to go over a few other notable frog species who've also left their mark on the masses. And just know, I'm no herpetologist. I'm just a really passionate frog enjoyer. So forgive me if I leave out some information or make a few mistakes along the way. But without further ado, let's start with one of the cutest frog varieties out there, rain frogs, whose pudgy appearance and delightful little streaks have garnered plenty of attention on the internet. And we mustn't forget the dumpy tree frog, who, as the name suggests, are chubby, flubby little fellas. They go by many names, but I think the word dumpy suits them the best. It's majestic, I might say. It also appears they're pretty commonly kept as pets, at least based on all the clips I've seen of them. Make of that what you will. There are also a few less charming varieties, though, that I feel I must bring up for the sake of the video. This includes the infamous cane toad, who, up until today, I thought was only invasive in Australia, but seems to have taken over other parts of the world as well. Ironic, seeing as other frog populations seem to have taken a nosedive in recent years, very unfortunately. I would say good for the cane toads, but I think that would be undermining the amount of damage they've caused. As well, I'd like to bring up the Suriname toad, who, though hasn't done any physical damage, has likely done a ton of mental damage to those who have witnessed the way they bear offspring. It doesn't personally bother me for some reason, but I'll let you look it up if you're daring enough to find out. But I do want to add, please don't hate these more problematic frogs. They're just being themselves. And unfortunately us humans have to deal with the consequences. But moving on. But if you do fancy frogs just being themselves, I bet you're familiar with all the frog feeding channels out there. It's the type of content one might watch if they can't keep a pet frog of their own. As someone who genuinely cares about frogs though, I must present a little frog PSA regarding them. Now some are really wholesome, putting frogs in safe controlled environments where they can just vibe with fellow amphibians. I really like these ones, because they genuinely seem to prioritize the frog's health and safety. Unfortunately, however, this is not always the case, and I might even say there's a bit of a dark underbelly to this side of frog content, as it were. As many nice frog feeding channels as there are, I've noticed some more extreme ones as well, to put it lightly. I won't go into too much detail about them, as to retain the lighthearted nature of this video, but all I can say is, if you care about frogs on any level, and enjoy watching these frog feeding channels, try to put in your best intuition choosing which ones to watch, as to not support any potentially harmful channels. I'm sure you already know this, and I hope I'm not coming off as patronizing in any way, but I felt like getting it out there, because I am aware of it, and I feel like it had to be addressed at some point. But above all, the main thing I feel must be addressed today is that frogs truly are extraordinary animals. They have what I like to call their signature frog sauce, which no mere mortal can ever dream of possessing. It's fitting too, as frogs seem to span all levels of human ubiquity, from our own imaginative works to the very tangible real world. Most things I left have been colored by them in some way, and it's hard to imagine a world without them. Frogs are genuinely something really special though, and I feel their influence must be cherished and preserved. I'm aware there's some very real threats to these animals too, and it'd be a damn shame to watch these animals disappear into thin air. Either way, I really appreciate your viewership, and I thank you for getting all the way here. I understand this video is a little offbeat, maybe even surreal to a degree, so thanks for sticking around. But if you enjoyed this video, I implore you to give it a thumbs up, and even subscribe if you want to see even more videos just like this in the future. If you don't want to like this video at the very least, then I have to assume you just really hate frogs. Have a great day or night as always, and peace the frick out.